Picture this, a world where two absolutely immense forces are about to collide head-on. On one side, you have the total, unquestioned power of an earthly empire, run by a ruler who literally believes he's a living god. And on the other side, an ancient, unseen, divine authority demanding nothing short of absolute submission. Today, we're unpacking the dramatic events of Exodus chapter 7, setting the stage for a conflict that will shake the very foundations of ancient Egypt. We're looking at all of this through a very specific lens today, something we're calling the Rod of Judgement.
Because, this is the central question we really have to ask ourselves here. What happens when an unstoppable divine force meets an immovable earthly ruler? This isn't just some old story about ancient plagues. It is a total masterclass in geopolitical and spiritual drama. It's a raw narrative about power, about authority, and about human stubbornness. We're sticking strictly to the source material today to map out exactly how a simple wooden rod becomes the ultimate instrument of judgment, completely tearing apart the fabric of a global superpower.
Okay, let's get right into part 1, the setup, a divine mandate.
To really grasp the sheer audacity of this confrontation, we have to look at the power dynamics at play. Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, issues this massive divine mandate. He basically positions Moses as a god to Pharaoh, with his brother Aaron stepping in as his prophet. And the demand they carry right into the royal court? It's absolute. The goal is to, quote, bring forth mine armies and my people the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by great judgments. This is not a polite request for a long weekend. It is a demand for total liberation. And notice that phrasing, by great judgments. Yahweh's explicitly stating his intent right up front. Pharaoh isn't going to listen, and honestly, that refusal is by design. The conflict is totally inevitable. Now, when you picture this, you might be imagining two young, shredded warriors storming the palace gates, right? Well, get a load of this number, 80. That is Moses' exact age when he steps up to speak to Pharaoh. It's a detail that grounds this epic, almost mythical rebellion in this startling layer of human realism. This isn't some young hothead acting on impulse. This is literally an octogenarian stepping into the most dangerous political arena on earth. And right beside him, his brother Aaron, who is 83. These two guys were well into their golden years when they kicked off this epic confrontation. It just adds an incredible weight to the whole narrative, doesn't it? They are carrying the fate of an entire nation on aging shoulders, armed with nothing but a divine mandate and a wooden staff. Which brings us to part 2, the skirmish, dueling serpents. So we transition from a verbal demand to an actual physical demonstration of power right there on Pharaoh's home turf. Pharaoh tells them to prove it, to show a miracle, and here is how this skirmish plays out in rapid fire. Step 1, Aaron throws down his rod, and right in front of everyone, it transforms into a living serpent. But Pharaoh, he doesn't even blink. Step 2, he calls in his own guys, the wise men, the sorcerers, the top magicians of Egypt. They throw down their rods, use their enchantments, and boom, they become serpents too. For a split second, it actually looks like a tie. It looks like earthly magic can hold its own against divine power. But then, step 3, Aaron's singular rod turns on the Egyptian serpents and literally swallows the competition whole. Talk about establishing the power dynamic. So, how does Pharaoh handle his top guys getting utterly bested? The text gives us this really fascinating phrase, Pharaoh hardened his heart. We can think of a hardened heart as this stubborn psychological state where someone just doubles down. They refuse to listen, even when undeniable proof is staring them right in the face. Pharaoh literally just watched a miracle eat his own magician's magic, but his psychological defenses kicked into overdrive. He just ignored it, exactly as Yahweh predicted. All right, moving on to part 3, the strike turning water into blood. Because Pharaoh refuses to budge, the standoff elevates from a parlor trick in the palace to a full-scale environmental strike. The very next morning, Yahweh tells Moses and Aaron to intercept Pharaoh down by the riverbank, and Aaron brings that exact same rod. The warning they deliver here is just visceral. Moses tells Pharaoh, "Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood." Let the sheer weight of that sink in. The Nile wasn't just a river. It was the lifeblood of Egypt. It was their agriculture, their economy, their survival. Striking the river wasn't a magic trick. It was a catastrophic, targeted attack on the nation's entire infrastructure. And the second Aaron stretches out his hand, the fallout is instant. The ripple effects are devastating. The text lays it out so clearly. First, the fish immediately die. Then the river starts to stink. This putrid smell just blankets the whole region. Obviously, the water becomes completely undrinkable. But the most chilling part? It wasn't just the river. Blood appeared throughout the entire land, even showing up inside people's houses in vessels of wood and stone. There was absolutely no escaping this. Now, the Egyptian magicians step back into the picture, and the text points out that they were actually able to do similar small enchantments. But, and this is the crucial distinction, they could not reverse the waters back from blood. Think about that. Their earthly power was limited to mimicking the destruction, making things worse, but they were completely 100% powerless to stop or fix the overwhelming environmental plague that Aaron's rod just unleashed.
Which leads us right into our final section, the stalemate, a stubborn king.
You would really think that seeing his nation's lifeblood literally turn to blood, seeing his people unable to drink, his economy smelling like death, his experts totally helpless, would break the guy's resolve, right? But no. We hit a stalemate. Completely unmoved by the disaster all around him, Pharaoh just turns around and walks back into his house. He just checks out. But while the king sits stubbornly in his palace, the regular citizens are living a nightmare. Day 1, the river turns. Days 2 through 6, desperate Egyptians are frantically digging in the dirt around the edges of the river, just praying to find groundwater that isn't tainted so they don't die of thirst. This agonizing reality drags on for a full 7 days. 7 days of absolute ruin, all because of one hardened heart. So let's wrap this up with a thought that really sticks with you. Why does human nature so often choose destruction over just admitting defeat when confronted with an undeniable truth? I mean, Pharaoh watched the rods. He smelled the rotting fish. He knew his people were digging in the dirt for a single drop of water. Yet he chose the ruin of his entire nation over simply letting go of his own pride. It's a haunting look at the psychological weight of the hardened heart. And let's be real, it's a timeless, destructive human flaw that we still see echoing everywhere today. Definitely something to think about the next time you find yourself doubling down when the truth is staring you right in the face.